So, ladies and gentlemen, I think we can get ready. I hereby open the 27th meeting of the 44th session of the Human Rights Council. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you're ready, we will start with L8, Situation on Human Rights in Eritrea, and I give the floor to the Netherlands.
Thank you, Madam President. Excuse me for the delay. On behalf of the core group consisting of Australia, Austria, Belgium, France, Germany and the Netherlands, I have the honor to introduce Resolution L8 on the human rights situation in Eritrea. Since October 2012, the Special Rapporteur has kept the Human Rights Council informed. For 6 years, the Council has fully supported the work of the Special Rapporteur for Eritrea and has renewed her mandate by consensus. Last year, the original sponsors were no longer in a position to present this initiative. The core group stepped in because we strongly believe that for this Council to be credible, the scope, form and duration of a specific country mandate should be subject to the level of progress on the ground. Madam President, we recognize that there have been some positive developments. The joint declaration of peace and friendship between Eritrea and Ethiopia in July 2018 opened a path towards improved regional relations. We have welcomed Eritrea's engagement with the UPR and the CEDAW Committee. However, 2 years after the signing of the peace agreement, these developments have not yet translated into tangible reforms in human rights. In her 2019 report, the Special Rapporteur sets out 5 benchmarks for achieving meaningful and lasting progress in human rights. This year, she reports that no substantial steps have been taken towards attaining these benchmarks. We are worried by the continued practice of indefinite national service, arbitrary detentions, the absence of a valid constitution and rule of law, and the absence of freedom of expression. We are also deeply concerned by the severe restrictions imposed on the right to freedom of religion and belief. Madam President, the human rights situation in Eritrea is of such a serious nature that independent HRC scrutiny is essential. We deeply regret that Eritrea, as a Council member, refuses cooperation and denies access to the mandate holder and OHCHR. This despite their numerous efforts to engage constructively. We will therefore present a technical resolution to extend the mandate for 1 year, again presented under item 2 in recognition of the positive regional dynamics. We stand ready to continue an open and constructive dialogue with Eritrea. When Eritrea shows genuine commitment to working with the Special Rapporteur, this Council should stand ready to reassess the situation. Madam President, we call on all members of the Human Rights Council to support the adoption of this resolution by consensus. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I'm told that there are 2 additional co-sponsors. I now open the floor for delegations wishing to make general comments. I can see Germany.
Madam President, I have the honor to speak on behalf of the European Union. We reiterate our support for the Special Rapporteur's mandate. The European Union remains concerned about the human rights situation in Eritrea, including about the repressive measures taken against human rights defenders and the severe violations of the freedom of religion or belief. We remain very concerned about the indefinite national service and its serious negative impact on human rights in the country, as reported by the Special Rapporteur. The human rights situation in Eritrea needs to be addressed and requires continuous monitoring. We deeply regret that Eritrea, as a member of this Council, continues its policy of limited cooperation and encourage Eritrea to strengthen its engagement with this Council's mechanisms. We urge Eritrea to uphold the highest standards in the promotion and protection of human rights, to fully cooperate with the Special Rapporteur, as well as with the thematic special procedure mandate holders and other human rights mechanisms, notably by granting them full and unhindered access to the country and by adopting the proposed benchmarks. The EU stands ready to assist Eritrea in the field of the promotion of human rights, including support to the implementation of the UPR recommendations, as well as women and youth empowerment. This mandate can play an important role in strengthening civil and political rights, as well as economic and social rights in Eritrea. Madam President, For the above-mentioned reasons, the EU supports the resolution L8 and can join the consensus. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. I give the floor to Somalia now.
Thank you, Madam President. My delegation is taking the floor to call for a vote on the draft resolution L8 proposed to the Council on the following grounds. Madam President, over the past few years, Somalia had witnessed a major positive development in the region on Horn of Africa and a political will from the state of the region, including Eritrea, that aims at promoting peace, stability, and economic development. In our view, the Council needs to appreciate and support such positive development. Somalia is also proud to witness Eritrea's commitment to put solid foundation for the enjoyment of human rights through social justice and needs to be encouraged. The present draft defies the development in the region, mixes the agenda items of the Council, and most importantly, negates the consent of the country concerned. The present resolution is an item 4 resolution in content and is spread tabled under item 2. This move clearly violates the sanctity of the separate agendas of the Council. The draft under consideration of human rights situation in Eritrea calls upon the Council to renew the mandate of the Special Rapporteur and asks the Rapporteur to present an oral update and a written report. It further calls upon Special Rapporteur to update the General Assembly. It further welcomes the report of the Special Rapporteur and asks her to follow up on previous reports. Madam President, allowing this draft will create a bad precedent and further polarize our understanding and position. Moreover, this initiative is counterproductive and has never led to any satisfactory result on the ground since its inception. Madam President, for the reason highlighted above, I call the Council to reject the draft resolution L8 under consideration and call upon members of the Council to vote against it. I thank you, Madam President.
Thank you very much. Does anybody else wish to make a general comment? This doesn't seem to be the case, so I give the floor to the country concerned. Eritrea, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. The present resolution on Eritrea is a vivid illustration of the skewed power balance in this august body and reflects the continued and concerted campaign of certain Western countries against Eritrea for sinister political objectives. As we have stressed from the outset, the unwarranted harassment of Eritrea was conceived 8 years ago as a residual option, Plan B, so to speak, by certain powerful states to reinforce and supplant, if need be, the sanctions regime that have been imposed on the country earlier for political purposes pursuing them. This was at a time when Eritrea and Horn of Africa in general were entangled in simmering conflicts and wars. These powers were in a position then to solicit pliable partners in Africa to sponsor the resolution and imbue an African face to their nefarious agenda. This is not the case anymore. Eritrea and its partners in the Horn are earnestly engaged in nurturing and congenial climate and robust architecture of regional peace and cooperation. Eritrea, for its part, is funneling its undivided efforts to resume the heavy task of nation building and reconstruction in all its dimensions after decades of interminable tensions and conflicts with its neighbor. In the event Eritrea strongly rejects the obsolete report of the Special Rapporteur and its conclusions, I will not waste your time to reiterate here Eritrea's position on the Special Rapporteur report as a comprehensive rebuttal to the worn-out, recycled, and unfounded allegations was given and circulated at the time. Eritrea welcomes and expresses its gratitude to all the countries who have boldly echoed its position during the interactive dialogue with the Special Rapporteur at the current session. It again reaffirms its commitment to expand and strengthen its ongoing engagements with the framework in UPR. As we all agree, politicization, selectivity, and double standards were the cause for the failure of the previous Human Rights Commission, the predecessor of the HRC. Eritrea is very much concerned that this systemic malaise will continue to cast its dark shadow on the HRC as exclusive power blocks continue to undermine fundamental principles of law and fairness to advance their narrow political interests. In this respect, Eritrea will continue to collaborate with other like-minded countries to modestly contribute to addressing this unjustified state of affairs perpetuated for geopolitical agenda and vested interests of certain powers under the mantle of human rights. For all these reasons, Eritrea requests all member states who wish to advance genuine and balanced dialogue on human rights as well as integrity and credibility of the HRC to vote against the current resolution A/HRC/44L8. I thank you very much, Madam President.
Thank you very much. And I'm being informed by the Secretariat that in this case there is no PBI. I would now like to open the floor for explanations of vote before the vote. Who would like to make such an explanation? I can see Mexico.
Mi delegación votará.
My delegation will vote for the draft L8. We are concerned by the complex human rights situation prevailing in Eritrea, which is reflected in the comments made by the High Commissioner for Human Rights, as well as in the report presented by the Special Rapporteur, which accounts, further, of the need to work on strengthening the institutions, to promote legal reforms, and to create the necessary conditions for the full attainment of fundamental rights and freedoms in that country. All the while, we recognize as a quite positive development the participation of Eritrea at the third cycle of the UPR, as well as in the dialogue they held with the Committee on the Elimination of Discrimination Against Women. We encourage Eritrea's administration to consider various alternatives of cooperation and dialogue with the universal human rights system, and to honor their commitments as a member of the Council. Openness to international scrutiny and cooperation with the Office of the High Commissioner, as well as the special procedures, are all essential in building capacities on the ground and in generating results that benefit people. In addition, the members of the Council would have additional points for a future evaluation of a mandate such as that of the Special Rapporteur. Thank you. Thank you very much, Ambassador. Philippines.
Thank you, Madam President. No matter how we frame this resolution, it is still a resolution that does not enjoy the consent of the country concerned. We must examine the rationale of sustaining this mandate against two elements. First, a national situation that has evolved from the time that this mandate was created, a situation which reflects the commitment of the state concerned to achieve progress and which is recognized by its regional partners. We all want a council that is dynamic, constructive, and credible. Bearing this in mind, we call on council members to avoid being ossified in agendas that have taken a life of their own, out of tune with developments on the ground. What is often lost in our discourse is that Eritrea is a young nation that emerged in 1993 from a long war, and it must be supported fully as it overcomes its challenges as a duty bearer. Second element is the cost of the extension of this mandate. We call attention to the fact that mandates on Eritrea have cost nearly $5 million from 2015 to 2020 alone. According to the OHCHR, this resolution, if adopted, would cost $448,000 to implement in 2021. This is $500,000, $231,800 for travels and salary of a P3 staff for a year, and the rest for conference services. Is this still justified given the marked improvements on the ground? Madam President, my delegation finds this to be a travesty at this time when the pandemic is causing severe budget difficulties, recession across nations, rich and poor, and deeper indebtedness among developing countries. We believe that this amount could better be used in more conscionable ways, for example, on concrete measures to help Eritrea's 5.6 million people and its further reforms. It is for this reason that my delegation will vote against L8. Thank you.
Thank you. And we now hear a video from Venezuela.
Thank you, President. Venezuela rejects the draft resolution L8 presented by Eritrea. Since 2012, Eritrea, regrettably, has been the subject of continuous and unjustified resolutions in this Council, through which the mandate of the Special Rapporteur was foisted on the country. This resolution welcomes also the report presented by the Special Rapporteur on Eritrea and proposes yet again the extension of that mandate. The mandate has not been accepted by Eritrea, nor has the report presented, which is full of the same false accusations, presumptions, and offensive allegations that have characterized these yearly reports since the special procedure since 2012. The report that is praised in this draft resolution is, by and large, a compilation of publications coming from hostile countries that are promoting the drafting of this document. The mandate foisted on Eritrea has had groundless conclusions that are thoroughly negative. They are presumptuous about the situation in Eritrea and Ethiopia, paying no heed to the agreement of peace and friendship signed by these countries in Asmara 2018, which sent a message of optimism, hope, and long-lasting reconciliation for the peoples of both countries, and established tangible and multifaceted bilateral cooperation programs. In this regard, what has been attained over the past 2 years is essential from any standpoint. The complete normalization of bilateral relations has gone far beyond the expectations, not only in diplomatic terms, but also in terms of well-structured, periodic, and comprehensive bilateral consultations, which includes the summits that have taken place and shall continue to take place. The economic sector and the trade sector are being strengthened through infrastructural frameworks, administrative frameworks, and legal frameworks. The relationship between Eritrea and Ethiopia, which is now normalized, has spurred and further catalyzed multilateral agreements, either new agreements or complementary agreements, with Somalia, Sudan, and Kenya. In spite of all the political will, building long-lasting peace is no easy task, especially when there are countries in the midst trying to hamper the progress. Eritrea currently is in a better position to set all its human capital for significant, long-lasting development. The history of the past 29 years shows that Eritrea has managed and can manage economic growth that is both inclusive and vast, one that is based on social justice under proper conditions of regional and domestic peace. This draft presented seeks to renew a mandate whose owner has tried to cast aspersions on Eritrea, recycling the various accusations against that country without verifying the actual facts or the underlying motives behind these statements. An alleged repressive government that stands in disagreement with a people.
Thank you. Let's stop the video. I'm afraid time's up, and I give the floor to Brazil.
Thank you, Madam President. Brazil continues to follow the human rights situation in Eritrea with great attention. We commend the creation of a National Steering Committee and a National Action Plan to coordinate the state efforts to ban female genital mutilation and child marriage and address other forms of violence against women and girls. Nevertheless, Brazil will once again vote in favor of this resolution because we believe that the extension of the mandate of the Special Rapporteur on the situation of the human rights in Eritrea can be beneficial to addressing pressing challenges that remain. Brazil is particularly worried about accounts of political, ethnic, and religious persecution, including through unlawful detentions and enforced disappearances. We call special attention to ongoing restrictions on the activities of the Catholic Church through the seizure of hospitals and schools run by it, to the detriment of the rights to health and education of the population. We continue to hope that this resolution offers a chance for the Eritrean government to cooperate with the Office of the High Commissioner to strengthen the protection of human rights in Eritrea. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador, and I give the floor to Ukraine.
Thank you, Madam President. The Special Rapporteur has kept the Human Rights Council informed about the human rights situation in Eritrea, which is a matter of constant concern for 8 years. Despite the positive regional developments, she notes little to no progress on the benchmarks mentioned in her report. We also note with regret that Eritrea has shown no willingness to cooperate with the Special Rapporteur and the Office of the High Commissioner, being firmly convinced that monitoring and cooperation with international human rights mechanisms are of key importance for the promotion and protection of human rights. Ukraine believes that this mandate is still very much needed to keep the Council informed. We will therefore vote in favor of Resolution L8 and encourage all member states to do the same. I thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. Je donne la parole au Cameroun.
Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Madam President.
Of Africa has changed since 2 years. At the same time, it's worth recalling that there is an African group position on this issue. On the substance of the resolution itself, there are a number of grounds on which this resolution has to be rejected. On the top of the general derogatory nature of the country-specific resolution, it is unprofessional and violates the sanctity of the agenda items of this Council. The current resolution is an item for resolution table under item 2. It welcomes and recognizes the former reports that the Council itself has not done before. This way, it endorses all the former procedural and substantial flaws that every state should reject. It is for these few reasons that my delegation will not support this draft resolution. I thank you.
Thank you. Are there any further requests for explanations of votes? Could I make an explanation of vote before the vote at the moment? At least I can't see anybody. So, at the request of the delegations of Somalia as well as Venezuela, the Council will now proceed to a recorded vote on draft proposal L8 on the situation of human rights in Eritrea. And I ask the Secretariat to open the voting machine, and I ask all delegations to register their vote. Would you please all check whether your votes are correctly rendered? Because I will now ask the Secretariat to close the voting machine. The voting is now closed. And you can see the results for yourselves. 24 in favor, 10 against, and 13 abstentions. The draft proposal is therefore adopted.